Friends, welcome to Prashant IAS. Friends, I have purchased a new gadget for teaching you, and from today's class onwards, all your sessions will be very interactive. You all will feel as if you are studying in a live classroom and your teacher is teaching you on a whiteboard. Friends, this gadget is new for me. So, if there is any mistake in writing, then please try to cooperate with me till next 3 days until I get mastery over this product. Okay? So friends, in the last class, we were discussing about the President of India. And from this class, we will continue our discussion further. Friends, in this class, we will start our discussion with Article 74 of the Indian Constitution. So what is Article 74? So what is Article 74? So first of all, I will explain you. So friends, this is the President of India, okay? And this is the crown of President. So this is the President of India. And they all are ministers, okay? So they all are ministers. You can see on the whiteboard. And friends, together these all ministers will be called as COM. COM means Council of Ministers. So Council of Ministers means together all the ministers are called as Council of Ministers. So Council of Ministers means a body comprising of all the ministers. So this is Council of Ministers. Now let's see what Article 74 says. So Article 74 says that Council of Minister will give advice to the President of India. Okay, so Article 74 says that there shall be a Council of Minister, and this Council of Minister will give advice to the President of India. So definitely President has to work according to the advice of Council of Ministers. But friends, there is a twist. The twist is that it is not written in the Constitution. It was not written in the Constitution that whether the President is bound by the advice or President is not bound by the advice. Okay, so it was not written in the Constitution that whether the President is bound by the advice or President was not bound by the advice. Okay, then let's see what happened. Then friends, what happened in 1959? In 1959, who was the President of India? So in 1959, Dr. Rajendra Prasad was the President of India. Okay, so Dr. Rajendra Prasad was the President of India in year 1959. And who was the Prime Minister of India in 1959? So Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister of India in 1959. Now friends, I told you in the previous lectures that Prime Minister is the head of Council of Ministers. Okay, so Prime Minister is the boss of Council of Ministers. So this Council of Ministers in 1959 was led by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was the boss of Council of Ministers in 1959. Now what happened that this Council of Ministers, okay, gave advice to Dr. Rajendra Prasad to sign a document. Okay, so this Council of Ministers asked Dr. Rajendra Prasad to sign a document. But friends, Dr. Rajendra Prasad knew that this document is not good for India. And if I will sign this document, then this can be bad for the interest of the people of India. This can be bad for the interest of my country. This can go against the interest of my country. So what Dr. Rajendra Prasad did, that he refused to sign the document. He said that I will not sign this document. He clearly refused to sign the document. But friends, then what happened that Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru told Dr. Rajendra Prasad that according to Article 74 of the Indian Constitution, Council of Minister will give you advice and you have to act according to the advice of Council of Ministers. So if Council of Minister is asking you to sign the document, then why are you not signing the document? Okay, so what Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru said? Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru said that if Council of Ministers is advising you to sign the document, and it is your constitutional duty. Okay, it is given in the constitution that Council of Ministers will give you advice and you have to work according to the advice of Council of Ministers. Then why are you not signing the document? Then Dr. Rajendra Prasad said that I am not bound by the advice of Council of Ministers. I am not bound by the advice of Council of Ministers. So it is my discretion to decide should I sign or not, whether I have to sign or not. I am not bound by the advice of Council of Ministers. Okay, but friends, later on what happened, that Dr. Rajendra Prasad, what he did, he signed the document. Okay, so now you will ask that, sir, why Dr. Rajendra Prasad have signed the document when initially he refused to sign the document? So the reason was that India was a new state. Okay, so India was a new state and Dr. Rajendra Prasad didn't want any constitutional deadlock in the new state. So India was altogether a new state and Dr. Rajendra Prasad didn't want any constitutional deadlock in the new state India. And moreover, it can cause a huge embarrassment for the government. Why? Because government has asked president to sign a document and president refused. So it can be a matter of huge embarrassment for the government. Okay, so finally Dr. Rajendra Prasad, what he did, he signed the document. But now there was a question that president is not bound by the advice of Council of Ministers. Okay, so Dr. Rajendra Prasad showed his powers. Dr. Rajendra Prasad showed that president is not bound by the advice of Council of Ministers. Now friends, later on what happened, that government realized that actually president is not bound by our advice. So if president is a powerful man, if president is a affirmative man, then president can even refuse the advice of Council of Ministers. So what happened then? Then came 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976. Okay, so what happened? So then came 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976. And what happened in 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act? So 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act actually changed the language of Article 74. 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act amended the Article 74. Okay, and now what was the new language of Article 74? So the new language of Article 74 was that now president is bound by the advice of Council of Ministers. So the new language of Article 74 was that, okay, so this is president and this is Council of Ministers. Okay, so this is president and this is Council of Ministers. Now this Council of Ministers will give advice to the president. Okay, so this Council of Ministers will give advice to the president, and now president is duty bound to follow the advice of Council of Ministers. Now president is bound to act according to the advice of Council of Ministers. So earlier president was not bound by the advice of Council of Ministers. Why? Because it was not written in the constitution. But now it was written in the constitution in Article 74 that now president is bound by the advice of Council of Ministers. Now friends, then constitution was amended one more time. So then came 44th Constitutional Amendment Act, 44th Constitutional Amendment Act 1978. Now what happened in 44th Constitutional Amendment Act 1978? So this time again 44th Amendment Act amended the Article 74. So this time again Article 74 was amended. Now what amendments, what changes Article 44 introduced in Article 74? So let's see. So this is the President of India, okay, and this is Council of Ministers. Okay, so now according to Article 74 of the Indian Constitution, this Council of Minister will give advice to President. Okay, so first of all, this Council of Minister will give its advice to the President. But now friends, as in 42nd Amendment Act, President was bound by the advice of Council of Ministers. But according to 44th Amendment Act, now President has the option to send back the advice for reconsideration. Okay, to send back the advice for reconsideration means that President can ask the council of minister, president can ask the council of minister. So president can ask the council of minister to reconsider its advice. Okay, means to think one more. Okay, to think one more on the advice given by COM to the president. So after 44th Amendment Act, President had one option. So President has the option to send the advice of Union Council of Minister for the reconsideration. Okay, means President can send back the advice for the reconsideration of Council of Ministers. But friends, if this time Council of Minister send back the advice to the President. Okay, now Council of Minister can change the advice, Council of Minister can do some changes in the advice, or Council of Minister can send back the advice in the original form. So Council of Minister can send the advice in amended form or in the original form. But this time means if the advice is sent for second time. Okay, so if advice is sent for second time to the President, then this time President is bound by the advice of Council of Ministers. Okay, so what was the provision in 44th Amendment Act? So according to 44th Amendment Act, first time President can send back the advice for the reconsideration of Council of Minister, but after reconsideration, if Council of Ministers send back the advice to the President, okay, in original or modified form, then second time President is bound by the advice of Council of Ministers. Means now President has to give his assent. President has to sign the document. President has to act according to the advice of Council of Ministers. Okay. So friends, when K.R. Narayanan was the President of India, okay, so when K.R. Narayanan was the President of India, so what happened at that point of time? That Council of Ministers, Union Council of Ministers asked him, okay, so Union Council of Ministers asked him to sign President's rule in Uttar Pradesh. Okay, so what Union Council of Ministers did? Union Council of Ministers asked him to sign President rule in Uttar Pradesh. But friends, what happened? That K.R. Narayanan knew that Union Council of Ministers is asking him to sign the President rule because of politics, because of political reasons. There was no genuine reason to sign the President rule, to impose the President rule in Uttar Pradesh. So what K.R. Narayanan did? So K.R. Narayanan used his power and he sent back the advice of Council of Minister for reconsideration. Okay, so K.R. Narayanan didn't sign the President rule in Uttar Pradesh and he sent back the advice for the reconsideration of COM. And friends, if President is sending back the advice, to Union Council of Ministers, then it is a thing of great importance that actually President is not agree by the advice. Okay, so what happened that now Union Council of Ministers didn't send back him advice. Okay, so this time what happened that Union Council of Ministers dropped the idea to impose the President rule in Uttar Pradesh. Union Council of Ministers didn't send back the advice to President to impose the President's rule in Uttar Pradesh. So in this way, K.R. Narayanan actually protected, okay, so he actually protected the Uttar Pradesh from coming under President's rule. Okay, so he protected the Uttar Pradesh from coming under President's rule. Now friends, then what happened? Then again, what Council of Ministers did? Then again, Council of Ministers advised K.R. Narayanan, who was the President of India, to impose the President rule in Bihar. Okay, so this time Council of Ministers asked K.R. Narayanan to impose the President's rule in Bihar. But this time also Union Council of Ministers was doing so for their political reasons. Actually, there was no reason to impose the President's rule in Bihar. Council of Ministers wanted to impose the President's rule in Bihar because of political reasons, because different parties were ruling in center and state, and because of their political fight, Union Council of Ministers wanted to impose president's rule in Bihar. So this time again what K.R. Narayanan did, that he sent back the advice for the reconsideration of Union COM. Okay, so he sent back the advice for the reconsideration of Union COM. But this time COM got irritated that each time president is sending back us advice. In this way we will not be able to do anything. So what Union Council of Ministers did this time, they actually sent the advice back to president to impose the president's rule in Bihar. And I told you that after 44th Amendment Act, what was the provision of Article 74, that first time president can send back the advice. But if Council of Ministers asked president second time, so this was second time. So now president was actually bound by the advice of Union Council of Ministers. So this time president was bound by the advice of Union Council of Ministers. So now according to his constitutional duty, according to Article 74 of the Indian Constitution, he had to sign the president's rule in Bihar. So finally he signed the president's rule in Bihar and Bihar came under president's rule. Now friends, let's discuss about the discretionary powers of the President of India. Okay, so what is the meaning of discretionary powers? What is the meaning of discretionary powers? So discretionary powers means I do what I do. Okay, so discretionary powers means I do what I do. Now what does it mean? So it means that it's my job to decide what to do or not. Okay, so discretionary powers means it is my job to decide what to do or not. Now what does it mean? It means that in the exercise of his discretionary powers, President of India does not takes the advice of anyone. So discretionary powers means President does not takes the advice of anyone. President uses his own mind. Okay, President applies his own mind and he decides himself. President uses his own mind and by the application of his mind he decides himself that whether to do this or whether not to do this. Okay, so president does not take advice of anyone. President uses his own mind and he decides himself whether to do this or not. Okay, so this is the meaning of discretionary powers. So in short we can say that discretionary powers means when president can use his own mind for doing his work, when president does not take advice of anyone for doing his work. So discretion means when you have the authority to decide. Discretion means when you can apply your mind for deciding, when you are the deciding officer. Okay, now friends, Constitution of India, friends, the discretionary powers of the President of India are not given directly in the Constitution. Okay, means there is no dedicated article regarding the discretionary powers of the President. So Constitution does not gives directly discretionary powers to the president. Okay, so in the Constitution of India it is not written that whether president has discretionary powers or not. So what does it mean? It means that Constitution of India has not explicitly mentioned the discretionary powers of the Indian president. Okay, means by reading any article, any article of the Indian Constitution does not tells directly about the discretionary powers of the Indian president. But friends, implicitly we can conclude by reading various articles that he has some discretionary powers. Okay, now what does it mean? It means that indirectly by reading different articles of the Indian Constitution. Okay, so indirectly by reading the different articles of the Indian Constitution, we can jump to the conclusion that President of India has many discretionary powers. There are many works in which President can use his own mind. So directly it is not written in the Constitution that what are the discretionary powers of the Indian president, but by reading different articles of the Indian Constitution we can jump to the conclusion that what are the discretionary powers of the Indian president. So let's discuss about the discretionary powers of the Indian president in detail. So friends, the first discretionary power of the Indian president is given under Article 74. So according to Article 74, president can send back the advice of council of ministers for reconsideration. Okay, so just now I taught you that president can send back the advice of council of ministers for reconsideration. And friends, president does not takes the advice of any person in sending back this advice. President does this in his own discretion. So this is the discretionary power of the president of India. Okay, means president by using his own mind sends back the advice for the reconsideration of Union Council of Ministers. So this is the first discretionary power of the Indian president, that he can send back the advice given by Council of Ministers for reconsideration by using his own mind. Now what is the second discretionary power? Okay, so friends, in yesterday's class I taught you about suspensive veto and pocket veto. Okay, so I taught you about suspensive veto and pocket veto. Now what is suspensive veto? So suspensive veto means when President of India sends back the bill for the reconsideration of Parliament. Okay, and President can send back this bill with some suggestions or without any suggestions. And if bill is passed by the Parliament again, then the President is bound to sign the bill. So in short, suspensive veto means that President has the power to send back the bill for the reconsideration of Parliament. And what is pocket veto? Pocket veto means when President totally ignores the bill. Okay, when President does not sign the bill and he ignores the bill. He just puts the bill in his pocket and he ignores the bill. So friends, President uses suspensive veto and pocket veto in his own discretion. So President does not need the advice of Council of Minister or any person. Okay, so President does not need the advice of any person for suspensive veto and pocket veto. President uses suspensive veto and pocket veto in his own discretion. So this is the second discretionary power of the President of India. Now friends, the third discretionary power of the President of India is very important. Okay, so please try to listen this very carefully. So what is the third discretionary power of the President of India? Now friends, generally there are 3 sessions of the Parliament of India. Okay, so there are 3 sessions of the Parliament. The first session is budget session. Okay, so which is the first session? First session is the budget session. Second session, first session is budget session. Second session is monsoon session. Okay, so second is monsoon session. And the third session is winter session. So there are 3 sessions of the Parliament of India. The first session is budget session, second session is monsoon session, and the third session is winter session. Now out of these, budget session is the longest, okay, and winter session is the shortest. So budget session is the longest session and winter session is the shortest session. Now friends, the system is that between any 2 sessions of the Parliament, the gap should be less than 6 months. Okay, gap should be less than 6 months. So between any 2 sessions of the Parliament, gap should be less than 6 months. And President summons the session of Parliament on the advice of Union Council of Ministers. So who summons the session of Parliament? President summons the session of Parliament on the advice of Union Council of Ministers. Okay, but according to Constitution, according to Article 85 of the Indian Constitution, Houses of the Parliament shall be summoned in such a way that no more than 6 months passes between 2 successive sessions of the Parliament. Okay, so according to Article 85 of the Indian Constitution, the gap should not be more than 6 months. The gap between any 2 sessions of the Parliament should be less than 6 months. And who summons the sessions of the Parliament? President summons the sessions of the Parliament. And on whose advice? So on the advice of Union Council of Ministers. Now friends, let's suppose that budget session has ended. Okay, so let's suppose that budget session is now over. And after budget session, 4 months have passed. Now President is waiting for the advice of Council of Ministers to summon the sessions of Parliament. But Council of Ministers are not giving advice to President to summon the session of Parliament. Now 5 months have passed. Still, Council of Ministers is not giving advice to President of India to summon the session of Parliament. Now suppose 6 months have passed. Okay, so 6 was the threshold and 6 months have passed, and now also Council of Ministers is not giving advice to the President of India to summon the session of Parliament, and President is still waiting for the advice of Council of Ministers for summoning the session of Parliament. Now friends, President has the discretionary powers. Okay, so now President of India has the discretionary power. So now President of India can summon the session of Parliament in his own discretion. Okay, so now President of India does not need the advice of Council of Ministers to summon the session of Parliament. Okay, so now President can summon the session of Parliament on his own. So this is again a discretionary power of the President of India, that if Council of Ministers is not advising the President to summon the session of Parliament, and in the process if 6 months have passed, then after 6 months it is the discretionary power of the President to summon the session of Parliament. So this is again a discretionary power of the President of India. Now friends, let's see the fourth discretionary power of the President of India. Now this is not inspired by any provision of the Constitution. This is not inspired by any article of the Constitution. This is according to the convention. Convention means tradition. So this is according to the convention of parliamentary form of government in Britain. Why? Because we have actually adopted the parliamentary form of government from Britain, so we have adopted this convention also. So this is according to the convention in Britain. Okay, now friends, under the conventions established in England, President of India, okay, so President of India actually enjoys the right to warn or encourage the Council of Ministers. So President of India can warn the Council of Ministers if they are not doing good work, and President can even encourage, okay, President can even praise the Council of Ministers if they are doing good work. So President has the power to warn the government if government is not doing good work, and President can even encourage the government, can praise the government, motivate the government if government is doing good work. So what happened friends, that when Pranab Mukherjee was the President of India, so when Pranab Mukherjee was the President of India, so he warned the government, okay, so Pranab Mukherjee warned the Council of Ministers that the working of the government is not good. Okay, working of the government is not good, and the working of the government is disturbing the secularism in India. Working of the government is disturbing the secularism in India, and secularism is a very basic principle of the Indian Constitution. So when Pranab Mukherjee was the President of India, then he warned the Council of Ministers, means he warned the government that the working of the government is not good and government is disturbing the secularism in India. So this is again a discretionary power of the President of India, means he can warn the government or he can encourage the government in his own discretion. He does not need the advice of anyone to warn the government or to encourage the government. Now friends, let's discuss about the fifth discretionary power of the President of India. Now friends, under Article 78, okay, so under Article 78 of the Indian Constitution, Prime Minister of India, okay, so it is the duty of the Prime Minister of India to inform the President of India about two things, okay, so it is the duty of Prime Minister of India to inform the President of India about two things. So what now Prime Minister will do? Now Prime Minister will give information to President of India, okay. Now about what? So the first thing is about administration, means about the affairs of COM. What all is going inside COM? What all are the matters of COM? Okay, so it is the duty of the Prime Minister of India to inform the President of India about the affairs of Council of Ministers, about the condition of administration. Okay, and second thing, about proposed legislations. Okay, means which are the proposed legislations. Okay, which legislations CM is going to propose in the parliament. Okay, so this is the duty of the Prime Minister of India to inform the President of India about the affairs of COM, means about the administration, means what is going inside COM, and about the proposed legislation, means which are the proposed legislations, which are the bills which government is going to propose in Lok Sabha. Okay, so this is the duty of the Prime Minister. So we can draw conclusion that President has the right to get informed. Okay, so President has the right to get informed. President has the right to access the information. President has the right to get informed about the affairs of COM and about the proposed legislations. Okay, so friends, now President of India can use his discretion, and by using his discretion, President can call Prime Minister in his office. Okay, so President of India has the discretionary power to call Prime Minister of India in his office, and President can ask for any information. Okay, so President can ask for any information regarding the administration and proposed legislation from Prime Minister. So it is the discretionary power of the President of India to call Prime Minister of India. Okay, and Prime Minister of India has to go to the President of India, and Prime Minister of India has to inform President of India about the legislations, about the proposed legislations, and the affairs of administration. Okay, so friends, now let's see what is the sixth discretionary power of the President of India. So please try to put all your attention on screen, because this is very important. Now friends, I have explained you in the previous classes that how the government is formed in India. Okay, so government is formed by Lok Sabha elections, and suppose this is Lok Sabha. Okay, and these are the seats in Lok Sabha. So total there are how many seats in Lok Sabha? There are 543 seats in Lok Sabha, and the party which gets more than 50% of the total seats, the party which gets more than 50% of the total seats, that party forms the government. Okay, so there are total 543 seats in Lok Sabha, and we have to calculate 50% of 543. So how to calculate 50% of 543? So we have to multiply 543 by 1 by 2. So when you will divide 543 by 2, or you will multiply 543 by 1 by 2, then the result will come 271.5. Okay, so when you will do all the calculation, then result will come 271.5. Now friends, for majority means more than that. So we need at least 272 seats in Lok Sabha. So the party who will get 272 seats in Lok Sabha, that party will form the government. So out of total 543 seats, the party who will get 272 seats in Lok Sabha or more than that, that party will form the government. Now friends, suppose there are four political parties: Party A, Party B, Party C and Party D. Okay, now let's suppose that Party A got 100 seats in Lok Sabha. So after Lok Sabha election, Party A got 100 seats. Party B got 150 seats in Lok Sabha. Party C got 200 seats in Lok Sabha, and Party D got 93 seats in Lok Sabha. Okay, so when you will sum up all these, so the result will come as 543. Okay, so out of total 543 seats, Party A got 100 seats, Party B got 150 seats, Party C got 200 seats, and Party D got 93 seats. Now friends, none of these parties got at least 272 or more than that seats. Okay, so all the parties got less than 272 seats. So Party C got maximum number of seats. So here we can see that party C got 200 seats, but this number 200 is actually less than 272 and we need a number more than 272. So in this situation, no party will be able to form the government. Okay, no party will be able to form the government. So this situation is known as hung parliament. Okay, so when no party got the majority, no party gets the majority, then this situation is known as hung parliament. So friends, when no single political party or coalition of political parties enjoy majority in Lok Sabha, then this situation is known as hung parliament. So hung parliament means when no political party or the coalition of parties has majority in Lok Sabha. So there is a question that who will form the government. Okay, now there is a question, very important question, that lakhs and crores of rupees have used in conducting the elections, and then the question is that who will form the government, because for forming the government a majority of more than 50% of the total seats of Lok Sabha is needed. A majority of at least 272 members is needed. Okay, so now the question is that who will form the government. So friends, now the President of India has the discretionary powers. Okay, now friends, the President of India has the discretionary powers. Now President of India can invite the leader of any political party to form the government. Now President of India has the discretionary power to call the leader of any political party to form the government. Now friends, I will tell you a very interesting story. So friends, what happened in year 1996, that no political party or the coalition of political parties got the absolute majority in Lok Sabha. Okay, so no political party got the absolute majority in Lok Sabha, or even the coalition of political parties failed to get the majority in Lok Sabha. So what was the situation? So this was the situation of hung parliament. And I told you that in hung parliament, president gets the discretionary power to call the leader of any political party to form the government. Okay, now friends, in 1996, Shankar Dayal Sharma. Okay, so in 1996, Shankar Dayal Sharma was the president of India. Now Shankar Dayal Sharma also got the discretionary power to call the leader of any political party to form the government. Okay, so Shankar Dayal Sharma gave this opportunity to Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So Shankar Dayal Sharma called Atal Bihari Vajpayee to form the government, and Atal Bihari Vajpayee became the Prime Minister of India. But friends, what happened that Atal Bihari Vajpayee actually failed to bring the letter of support from the desired number of members of Lok Sabha. Okay, so Atal Bihari Vajpayee failed to bring the letter of support. In simple words, we can say that Atal Bihari Vajpayee didn't get the absolute majority in Lok Sabha, and he failed after 13 days. Okay, so he failed and he resigned in 13 days. Okay, and what Atal Bihari Vajpayee did, and then he advised Shankar Dayal Sharma. Okay, so he was the Prime Minister of India, so he was the boss of COM. So he gave advice to Shankar Dayal Sharma to dissolve the Lok Sabha. Okay, so I told you about dissolving the Lok Sabha. So Atal Bihari Vajpayee gave advice to Shankar Dayal Sharma to dissolve the Lok Sabha. Okay, but friends, Shankar Dayal Sharma refused to work according to the advice of Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Okay, so friends, when the Prime Minister, when the Council of Ministers has the absolute majority in Lok Sabha, then President is bound by the advice of Prime Minister to dissolve the Lok Sabha. But when Council of Ministers and Prime Minister does not have, when Prime Minister and Council of Ministers do not have absolute majority in Lok Sabha, then President is not bound by the advice of Prime Minister and Council of Ministers to dissolve the Lok Sabha. So Shankar Dayal Sharma refused to work according to the advice of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and he didn't dissolve the Lok Sabha. Then let's see what happened. Okay, so after Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Shankar Dayal Sharma called H.D. Devegowda. Okay, so after Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Shankar Dayal Sharma called H.D. Devegowda, and so H.D. Devegowda became the Prime Minister of India. Okay, so after Atal Bihari Vajpayee, he called H.D. Devegowda, and H.D. Devegowda became the Prime Minister of India. Now friends, H.D. Devegowda bought the letter of support from the desired number of MPs, and he became the Prime Minister of India. But later on, H.D. Devegowda also failed after 1 year. Okay, so after 1 year, he also failed. So friends, on the basis of above discussion, we can jump to the conclusion that when Council of Ministers and Prime Minister enjoys the majority in Lok Sabha, okay, so when Council of Ministers and Prime Minister have the majority in Lok Sabha, then President is bound by the advice of Council of Ministers to dissolve or to not dissolve Lok Sabha. Okay, so when Council of Ministers has the majority in Lok Sabha, then President is bound by the advice of Council of Ministers to dissolve or to not dissolve Lok Sabha. But friends, suppose if Council of Ministers do not have majority in Lok Sabha, if Council of Ministers do not have majority in Lok Sabha, then President of India is not bound by the advice of Council of Ministers and Prime Minister to dissolve or to not dissolve Lok Sabha. Then this is the discretionary power of the President of India to dissolve or to not dissolve Lok Sabha. Okay, so this is the next discretionary power of the President of India. So friends, that's all for today. In the next class, I will try to improve my writing skills. So friends, if you have enjoyed the lecture, so please like the video, comment, subscribe to my channel, press the bell icon and select all. I have uploaded the link of notes in the description of the video. So please download the notes from the description, or you can directly download the notes from my blog prashant-ias.blogspot.com. Till then, take care of yourself. Thank you.